Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to take you on a journey through my Beatles LP collection. These are mainly American releases, and they are from the start. These are original, a majority of them are original issues, and some are reissues, and they all were within the family for the most part, and purchased by either my parents or myself, my brother, and my wife. So, without any further ado, let's get started. First of all, we've got introducing the Beatles. This was I think this may have been the first album that my mom got. If it wasn't, it was this probably second or third. But this was the first that the United States audience was able to see or hear. This was released in, I believe, January of '64. And it's got I saw her standing there, misery, Anna, chains, boys, love me do. P.S. I love you, baby, it's you. Do you want to know a secret? Taste of honey, there's a place, twist and shout. So for a beginning album, that's pretty good. If I was to choose the best song on there, it's probably I saw her standing there, twist and shout, of course, but I like to stick with the Beatles pinned songs. So really good item to have. And if you've seen my previous video, you'll understand where I keep it at. And it's in a safe place. Next up is Meet the Beatles. Oh, I didn't go show you that it's got a, just showing you that it's got an original BJ label on it. Shows you the authenticity, I suppose. This one, Meet the Beatles, is next. And it's got the Beatles rainbow or the capital rainbow logo on it. This is another one that was purchased by my mom, and it is a absolute fantastic album on its own, even though it was broken up from the With the Beatles, and contains part of uh, Please Please Me and With the Beatles. So you got I Want to Hold Your Hand. I saw her standing there again. This boy, it won't be long. All I've got to do, all my loving, don't bother me, little child, till there was you. Hold me tight. I want to be your man, not a second time. This is, like I said, this is a fantastic album. If I was to choose the best song on it, it's probably I Want to Hold Your Hand. I saw her standing there. Always been a fan of It Won't Be Long, even though he says it won't be long a long time or lots of times. But fantastic album, original, love it. Next up is the Beatles' second album. A lot of nice pictures on the back. And if you had not purchased the original Meet the Beatles, there's an ad there for you to buy it. I would imagine you had already gotten it by then. But I don't know. To each his own. You got Roll Over Beethoven, Thank You Girl, You Really Got a Hold on Me, Devil in Her Heart, Money, You Can't Do That, Long Tall Sally, I Call Your Name, Please Mr. Postman, I'll Get You, and She Loves You. She Loves You is probably easily. I like Call Your Name, and You Can't Do That, but I'd have to go with She Loves You once again. This album, sporting the capital rainbow label, another another fantastic album, as they all are. Next up is Hard Day's Night. Even alone as a film soundtrack, and not the same as the UK version, this is still a fantastic album. You got A Hard Day's Night, Tell Me Why, I Cried Instead, Should Have Known Better, and I Love Her, Can't Buy Me Love. So so if I was to pick out whatever the funny story with this is that my mom's initials and my dad's last name, soon to be hers, she was a huge Beatles fan, and he was not really a Beatles fan. He was an Elvis fan, which was a little bit before his time, but he was an Elvis fan, and I can see why. And he was a Jan and Dean fan and a Beach Boys fan, and never was really a Beatles fan. So next series of albums in here, he kind of claimed himself, and it was mainly to try to impress her. But Back to this. If I was to pick I had to give you a little backstory on that. If I was to pick the one that I like the best, it's probably, I mean, I've always, like I said, if I didn't say it, I should have known better. Hard Day's Night, of course. And I Love Her is good. Love that guitar that George plays. And Can't Buy Me Love. Yep. Another fantastic album. Absolutely wonderful soundtrack album. Um, I think Something New was in there that was never purchased. So if I was to ever find that, I'd be happy with it. I'm not going to buy anything off the internet. I'm only going to find it if I find it in a record store or a yard sale, garage sale, or an antique store. That's the only place I'm going to pick them up at. That's a lot more fun that way than just ordering it off the internet. Next up is Beatles 65. Kind of a cool cover. More advertising for other ones. Uh, you got No Reply, I'm a Loser, Babies in Black, Rock and Roll Music, I'll Follow the Sun, Mr. Moonlight, Honey Don't, I'll Be Back, She's a Woman, I Feel Fine, Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby. This is another bust up of the UK version of Beatles for Sale, and I think, and then you've got I Feel Fine and She's a Woman. That was a single there at the end of '64. So if I was to pick a song on here that stands out the most, I would say I Feel Fine, of course, and I'm a Loser. I just feel that sings to me. Um, Next up is Beatles 6. Cool. Pictures on the back. Love that picture of John. And this is another bust up. This is the remaining parts of Beatles for Sale and the upcoming Help album. So 8 days a week, Kansas City, Words of Love. Yes, it is. I don't want to spoil the party. Every little thing, what you're doing. You like me too much. Tell me what you see. Bad Boy, Dizzy Miss Lizzie. So easily the best one on there is 8 days a week. Um, I, yeah, probably that. I like You Like Me Too Much. Yes, it is. Sometimes I think John was hard on Yes, It Is and said it was a garbage song. But anyway, cool picture. Another great album. Next is Help. Um, Fantastic soundtrack album. Help, Night Before, You Gotta Hide Your Love Away, I Need You, Another Girl, Ticket to Ride, You're Gonna Lose That Girl. Great, again, soundtrack, instrumentals. Um, uh, if I was to pick the best song off of this one, it's probably going to be, oh, well, it's Ticket to Ride, besides Help. But you open it up and woo, got pictures from the movie, and pretty cool, pretty cool. Um, yes, another great one. And don't want to skip it. Still with the rainbow labels, still authentic. Um, Next up is Rubber Soul. There may have been, I think somewhere in there I may have missed. There was an early Beatles album, and I think there was an album of the Beatles story. I can't remember exactly what it was called. I think it may have been called the Beatles story. But Rubber Soul, even the American version of this is still a classic album. I've just seen a face, Norwegian Wood, running through a few of them. Michelle, In My Life, Girl. You got a little. I think you've got some off of here that were on Help, and yeah, you got some that were on Help, and then the remaining on the UK version of Rubber Soul. Another interesting story about this album. This was purchased by my mom for my grandma for Christmas, the end of 1965. Well, my grandma was not a Beatles fan, so Guess who ended up with the album? That's right, my mom. And now I have it. This, like I said, this album alone, the American version, is a classic. And I consider it a John Lennon album. Yesterday and today. This one was not an original purchase. This is where we're running into where either me or my brother picked up these albums. So you got the Capitol Purple on it. So you got help songs and you've got Rubber Soul. You've got, yeah, you got Help and Rubber Soul and the Revolver. It's kind of a weird mix up of songs here. So if I was to pick on the best one on this one, probably you got Drive My Car, Only Sleeping, Nowhere Man, Dr. Robert, Yesterday, Act Naturally, Any Bird Can Sing, If I Needed Someone, We Can Work It Out. What goes on? Day Tripper. Probably the best one on here is Day Tripper. I like I'm Only Sleeping and George's If I Needed Someone. And We Can Work It Out. If this was an original album, it definitely would be a classic. And it is here, but it's not really considered an original album. Here is the second album I ever bought with my own money. I bought it in 1979. It's a reissue, Capitol label. I used to play this every day when I came home from school. I played Taxman. Didn't quite understand it. I do now, but I loved playing Taxman on here. Not until later on when I got a hold of the UK version of it, I didn't realize that that many songs were missing, and a chunk of those were John Lennon songs. As I got older, I became obsessed with Tomorrow Never Knows, and I played that. It was up there at the top of my favorite songs. Over time, I've really learned to appreciate, and one of my favorites now is For No One. It's a simple song, but it's very well executed. So, Revolver. Even the American version is an automatic classic. We have another Revolver. This one is an Apple release, and this one carries the Apple label. I think my wife may have purchased this, but this one contains all of the actual songs that are on Revolver. So, just another one in the collection. Sergeant Pepper. A lot of people's favorite album. Not my favorite, but a lot of people's favorite. It is an awesome album. It is a classic album. It is a fantastic album. It was a life changer for a lot of people. It was a mood changer. It was a history changer. But as much as John Lennon did not like this album, he's got two of the best songs on it and two of the best Beatles songs. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and of course, A Day in the Life, which is my second favorite song. And there was a song on here that I used to hate when I was a kid. I used to skip it. I went to side 2, skipped over. But I've learned to love that song, and that's George's Within You Without You. It is a very excellent, or very elegant, excellent, I guess, song. It got Indian music into the forefront. Indian music got on a major album with the Beatles. And I've really learned to, like I said, I've really learned to enjoy that one. Now, when I play the second side, if I play the second side, I skip the second song. You can figure that out. But this one was the 70, I think it's 76 release. It's the orange Capitol label. I think that's when this one came out. This one. And then we have another one. This is the Capitol. This is this is Capitol Purple. This was my wife's, and she kept the little things in there, but I think she played with them one. Tried to make something out of them. So we have another one on backup. Once again, classic album. Magical Mystery Tour. Now, if this was an actual album that was released in the United States, it's a actual LP. This would be right at the top almost. This is like a Beatles 1967 greatest hits, in my opinion. Look at the songs on it. I'm the Walrus in my top five. All of them are good. Even All You Need Is Love. Even Blue Jay Way. All You Need Is Love. It's played so much, used so much, I get tired of hearing it, or at least I think I'm tired of hearing it, and then it comes on and I end up singing along with it because it feels good. And this album contains, or EP expanded into an album in the United States, contains my favorite song by the Beatles, Strawberry Fields Forever. Like I said, this would be an awesome album if it was released in 1967. It would be right at the top of my albums. Next is the White Album. That doesn't look so white. Um, so, what can I say about this one? Fantastic album. Lots of songs on it. This one of ours, unfortunately, is missing the second album. And it's probably because we used it too much to try to go and spin it backwards so we can hear what they're saying in Revolution 9. But yeah, not so white anymore. Of course, what'd you call that? Cream, dull cream, dirty cream. Anyway, so if I was to pick the best songs on there, "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," definitely up there. "Mother Nature's Son," I've always loved that song, and "Dear Prudence." So three different Beatles, three top songs. The Beatles double album, White Album, almost white, used to be white. And next is, of course, my favorite album. Come on. Is there anything better than this? I suppose if you don't like it, there is, but this is my favorite Beatles album. This was the perfect swan song for them. Look at the songs on it. Look at them. "Come Together," "Something," even Maxwell's "Silver Hammer," "Oh Darling," "Octopus's Garden," probably Ringo's best on his own or written song. Doesn't have a lot, but probably one of his best. Definitely during the Beatles. "Here Comes the Sun," "Because," and then the medley. You got two classic, high on my list Beatles songs by George Harrison. "Here Comes the Sun," and probably my third favorite in "Something." Sometimes that's up even higher. So, um, yes, classic. How can you go wrong with this baby right here? Excellent. Next is "Hey Jude." This is kind of like another, we need an album, so U.S. says, Capitol says, the Beatles say, quit chopping up our albums, but Capitol says, we're going to squeeze one more out because we don't know what you're doing. I see that this was 598, marked down to 477. You got a "Hey Jude," "Revolution," "Paperback Writer," "I Should Have Known Better," "Lady Madonna," "Can't Buy Me Love," "Don't Let Me Down," "Ballad of John and Yoko," "Rain," "Old Brown Shoe." "Old Brown Shoes," one of my faves. Great George song. If I was to pick my favorite on there, it's "Don't Let Me Down." Gotta be. But even for what it was, this is a classic album. And "Let It Be," another genuine great album. "Two of Us," "I Dig a Pony," "Across the Universe," "I Me Mine," "Dig It," "Let It Be," "Maggie May," "I Got a Feeling," "One After 909," "Long and Winding Road," "For You Blue, Get Back." Fantastic. I love the way this album was done. It was original. May have been overproduced, like George Martin said. He's probably right. Um, but I like the way it was handled. I like the somewhat live aspect to it. It was fantastic to see the Get Back documentary. It really helps this album out, in my opinion. Gives you so much backstory. So now when you listen to this album, you can feel what was going on at this time, and it makes it that much more special. And the best song on the album is the song at the top. And the only way you can listen to that song, Let It Be, is from this album with the heavy solo. The rest of the Let It Be's are just there, and they are not special. This is the one, this version is the only one that there should be. Should be no debate. Now we're going to move on to some bonus albums. Um, we've got, this was the, let's say, this was probably the second. No, this was, the second album was Revolver. This was probably the fourth right here. This was the fourth album. The third album I ever bought was Grease soundtrack. I loved Grease for some reason then, but so that was a double album. Anyway, this was a great album to have. This would be another perfect album to have for a beginner. I don't have Rock and Roll Volume One, but this is a great one to have. Dizzy Miss Lizzie. This was the first place I heard Hey Bulldog, and I really, because I didn't have any Yellow Submarine. Knew Yellow Submarine the song, but this was another great album. I played this all the time too. I played this just as much as I played Revolver when I had it. Another good album to have when you're starting out. This one we got right around 1980. I think this may have had come out right before John's death, but I can't really remember. Um, this contains if I remember correctly, yes, it's got the Butcher cover, the dreaded Butcher cover, and scenes from concerts. And I believe this is maybe the last press conference they had. George looks like he's really tired of it. Don't blame him. But this is where I first, my name, look up the number and the inner light. And this has the extra little part of I Am the Walrus in it. But used to listen to this too a lot. Um, this was another cool album to have. Next up is Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl. Um, I think this came out in '77. Yeah, but I think we got this a few years later, and we were all excited because we were really getting into the Beatles, and at least me and my brother. Of course, my mom already was, and we got home, got this on, put this on the old turntable, and I might as well listen to a jet engine. But that gives you a sense of what attending a Beatles concert was like. It's just a wall of screams. I think when 8 Days a Week documentary came out a few years ago that Ron Howard did, I believe they redid it and they took all the screams out, which made it a lot better. Um, but this was still cool, but lots and lots and lots of decibel problems with screaming, so hard to hear them. But cool album. This is one of my wife's albums. This is actually a perfect album to get if you were able to get it to introduce a youngster to the Beatles. You got A Hard Day's Night, Should Have Known Better, Can't Buy Me Love, and I Love Her, Help, You Gotta Hide Your Love Away, Ticket to Ride, Magical Mystery Tour, I'm the Walrus, Yellow Submarine, All You Need Is Love, Let It Be, Get Back, Long and Winding Road. It's a nice little thing. It's or a nice little lineup of songs. Perfect. Let's see, different styles of songs, so you're getting everything, every bit of their career and their short time together. Yes, this was an excellent album for a first timer, and it's got a lot of cool artwork on it too. It's the movie tunes. And this is another one of my wife's. It's rare Beatles. Apparently, she liked to dress them up. She put this on there. This is probably on plastic wrap, but this is tells you that it's a British import. So, and it's got basic songs on it. I'm sure these were the ones that they were doing at the Cavern, part of their Cavern repertoire. And so you got, hey, Bebopalula. Yep, John did that later. So I've listened to it. It's fairly well. Another good one to have. And this is the final one. This is Beatles' early years. Another one that my wife had. Another one she dressed up. And it's got, I saw her standing there again. Uh, Roll over Beethoven. Hippie, 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 shake. I'll get through them. Sweet Little 16, Lend Me Your Comb, Twist and Shout, Mr. Moonlight, A Taste of Honey, Besame Mucho, and Reminiscing. Not to be confused with Little River Band, I think, but can't think of it right now. So this is another cool album to have, and that is going to do it for a run through of the Beatles American, with a few exceptions, LP collection. If you like this video, please give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. There'll be more Beatle videos to come in the future. And if you haven't seen our Beatles room tour, that should be right below here. So until next time, this is the first album I bought with my own money. Old record smell.